How's it going, everybody, and welcome back to the Bread Box. So, if you haven't noticed, my YouTube channel has kind of turned into a Duraludon one-trick channel, and I think that's where we're going to be living for a little bit because I'm just loving the heck out of this fridge. And so today, I just wanted to go through all of the Pokemon on the roster and make a somewhat tier list, somewhat matchup chart to help y'all figure out why I'm worried about certain Pokemon or why I'm relieved to see other Pokemon in my games. So let's just get right into it, and I'll do my best to explain my thought process. Leave a like or comment below if you think I got anything wrong, and definitely subscribe for more. So let's get started. So Venusaur is overall in just a terrible place in the meta right now. I don't particularly know why. It just seems like Venu has not been very strong, and so Duraludon has just been very strong into it. I think Solar Beam can sometimes outrange Duraludon, but most of the time if they're playing just Petal Dance Giga Drain, then you're pretty much gonna win. It's not very difficult to fight against. You outrange Venu pretty well, and you can get away with your Dragon Tail. Next up we've got Gengar, and I would say that it's somewhere between enemy favored and a skill matchup. I'm gonna say it's a skill matchup just because, no, I lied. So I'm gonna put it in enemy favored because if the Gengar hits its skill shots, you're dead. That's kind of just the long and short of it, is just if you get hit by a skill shot from Gengar, you're dead. If you dodge it, you're fine, but I think that Gengar just needs to hit one skill shot and you die. No one will be surprised to see Mr. Mime get put into the pure evil tier. A Mr. Mime ulting on you is a death sentence. You cannot get away from it. You will get KO'd and you will be very sad. There's actually nothing that you can do. Your full heal can kind of help, but if your full heal is on cooldown, then you're out of luck, and it really sucks. Mr. Mime has just been in a really strong place in the meta for so long now, and I think that that will continue to be true until it gets nerfed. I don't see that changing anytime soon. So, next up, Snorlax. Snorlax, I would say, is a Duraludon favored. Snorlax has a little bit of mobility and it has block to kind of push you around, but if you can Dragon Tail away from the Heavy Slam, then you'll be fine and you'll just be able to knock it out. You have more than enough damage to deal with how tanky it is. You just gotta sit back, just press your A button, pew, 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 you'll be fine. Don't even worry about it. Gardevoir, I'd say, is somewhere between skill matchup and Duraludon favored. Overall, I think it's Duraludon favored, just because Guardy, again, is one of those Pokemon that's just not in a strong place in the meta right now. It's not seeing a ton of play. I think it really struggles with all of the bushes that exist, and it can just very easily get one shot and does not have the mobility to back it up. Absol. Absol, I would say, I'm going to put it in skill matchup. Initially, I was actually going to put it in Duraludon favored, but I think a really good Absol could potentially just KO you immediately with lucky crits. If it's all based on lucky crits, though, then maybe I do put it in Duraludon favored, because it has to get those crits in order to win. Yeah, I'm going to shift that over. I think either moveset that the Absol plays, Duraludon will be favored as long as the Absol doesn't get crits, and, you know, at that point it's just luck-based. Garchomp. I'm going to put it right into Duraludon favored, just because Garchomp in general, again, is another not very strong Pokemon right now. It has a little bit of mobility, it can catch up to you, but if you just Dragon Tail whenever it uses one of its mobility moves, you can get out of the way, you can just keep pressing your A button. If it ults you probably do get KO'd, but, I mean, if it solo ults you, that's probably overall good for your team, just because it means that the rest of your team doesn't have to deal with all that damage. Lucario? I'm going to put Lucario as a skill matchup just because Power Up Punch can one-shot you. I've been one-shot by it on multiple occasions. I don't think a lot of people are playing E-Speed right now, so I think most people are playing Pup Close Combat, and if they hit you with that combo, just Pup Close Combat Pup, you're probably dead. So I would say that you just have to dodge their first pup, dodge their close combat, whatever you can to not take all that damage and survive, and then I think you'll be okay. But if they predict where you're moving, then that's why it ends up in the skill matchup tier, because it'll depend on your skill versus the Lucario's skill. Crustle goes right into Duraludon favored. I just don't think this Pokemon is very strong into Duraludon. I think you have more than enough damage again to just deal with how tanky it is. Might take you a while to knock it out, but you also have Lifesteal, you have your Dragon Tail to get away from it, and it probably can't knock you out before you're able to get to teammates. Greninja, I'm going to say skill matchup. I think that it's a very hard matchup, but I think that it really comes down to, do I get my damage out before you do? And Greninjas are very, very good. Like, Greninja one-tricks are very strong, and I think that it's mostly just they are better than me right now, but once I learn to play the matchup a little bit better, it will be more even. It really just depends. I think that you have slightly better secure than a Greninja. The Greninja ult is pretty good at secure, Surf is pretty good at secure, but so is Dragon Pulse. So, you know, at the end of the day, it could really go either way. Talonflame hurts. Talonflame goes into the enemy favor tier here just because it has so much mobility and so much damage. It can just one-shot you, just take you right off of the map, and you just get KO'd immediately. There's not much that you can really do about it. You can try to dodge with Dragon Tail, but usually they will just wait you out because they have all of the power and all of the control in that situation. As long as they're patient, they're going to kill you. Charizard, I'm going to put it in Duraludon favored tier with an asterisk that says if Charizard solo ults you, then it's definitely enemy favored, but that's not that surprising. Charizard ult is great. Charizard ult is very, very strong, always and forever. So if Charizard ults you, just press your full heal, and hopefully you time that right. If you don't, you're dead. Zeraora, I think, goes into the Duraludon favored tier, again, just because Zera is just not in a strong place in the meta. There are a lot of Pokemon this patch that are just not in a strong place. And I think it's part of our pure evil tier that's keeping a lot of them back. So yeah, I have not seen a lot of Zera on the map. When I have seen Zera, it just has not really been impactful. Although they have been impactful on my team, which I can be thankful for. But yeah, let's move on to Cinderace. Cinderace, I would say, is a skill matchup. I think that as long as you press your full heal so you don't get CC'd when it uses its Blaze Kick, you can pretty handily knock it out. It usually just comes down to levels. So if I have more levels than the Cinderace, I'm probably going to win. If the Cinderace is a higher level than me, then it's probably going to win. So just keep track of what level the Cinderace is and what level you are, and say to yourself, should I be fighting the Cinderace right now? And if the answer is yes, then double check and think about it first, because just the main thing is just be patient, right? You don't want to go into this fight and then end up throwing so much XP away. Eldegoss is a support. Eldegoss does not really have the damage to kill you. You have a lot of lifesteal, and yeah, so just very easy to roll on favored. If you're fighting an Eldegoss, you're probably going to KO it. Cramorant, I think, goes into the skill matchup tier. A good dive cram can knock you out pretty handily if you're not careful, but if you have your Dragon Tail, you can CC it, you can get some damage out, get some lifesteal, and hopefully KO it before it KOs you. It's really just a matter of the micro in the moment, and also levels, of course. Blastoise, I'm going to stick in enemy favored. If they are playing Rapid Spin, there's kind of nothing you can do to stop them from getting on top of you and just fully KOing you. I will say I am kind of an ult magnet, so a lot of times Blastoises just solo ult me for no reason just to KO me. So that could potentially be why I'm putting it in enemy favored, so I could be a little bit biased there. But I do think in general, Blastoise just has the tools to get on top of you and KO you whenever it wants to. Pikachu. Duraludon favored. I think, because your passive is able to stop Volt Tackle, it's not able to stop Thunderbolt, but you can just dodge Thunderbolt, you can play around that, just make sure to stay out of its range, wait for it to use its moves, and then go in and just absolutely destroy it. Pikachu just, once it's out of damage, it cannot hurt you. If it uses its ult, you probably die, but that's true for a lot of the Pokemon on this list. Clefable. Clefable also goes into the Duraludon favored tier. I have not had a Clefable knock me out once, I'm pretty sure. It's actually surprisingly squishy for how, like, tanky it looks visually. So you just press your A button and then your Dragon Pulse, you're set. Very easy. Ninetales, I'm also sticking in the Duraludon favored. If you're noticing a trend, Duraludon is very good into a lot of Pokemon. So yeah, Ninetales, Duraludon favored. I would say if they're playing Blizzard Avalanche, it could be a bit more difficult, but if they're playing Veil and Gleam, then you're going to be in a good place because you outrange and you outsustain. So you just watch the CC, use your full heal if you need to, but yeah. Wiggly, I will say, is Duraludon favored as well. It's pretty tanky, but you can melt through it. Just stay by your team. Don't take any, like, goofy engages with it, and you're going to be safe and fine. I don't think rollout is too much of an issue. If it does hit you with one rollout, again, you can just full heal out, or you can Dragon Tail out. There's a lot of options to deal with Wiggly. Slowbro just doesn't really do enough damage to kill you most of the time. Sometimes if you disrespect it, it will KO you, so just like know your ranges, know how strong you are at a given moment, and whether the Slowbro does have enough damage. But in general, a Slowbro will only be able to kill you if it unites you, just like a lot of the Pokemon on this list. Machamp. I honestly haven't seen a lot of Machamp on ladder lately. I don't know why. I feel like it's still a very strong Pokemon. So I'm putting it in the skill matchup tier just based on previous patches. I think that if it gets on top of you, it gets all its damage, it uses its Unite especially. There's nothing you can really do. If it's smart, it will wait until your passive is procced or something and just free KO you. It does enough damage. It's very strong, and I don't know why I don't see more of it on the ladder. I guess I'm glad, because for the longest time there was a meme where I would just be getting Machamp ulted on cooldown every single game, and it sucked. But it was also hilarious, so we take those. But yeah, I would say Machamp, just be very careful about all of its moves. Dragon Tail to avoid them as much as possible. Just always, always, always be saving your Dragon Tail for mobility. Sometimes you want it for damage if they're low, or to chase if they're low. But in general, when they're full HP, you don't want to be using it for damage. Okay. This Pokemon can't really hurt you. Its ult can hurt you, like a lot of the Pokemon on this list, but the one thing that you have to be very cautious of is Blissey passive will cleanse, rather, all of your Dragon Pulse stacks, which can be annoying if you're like, yeah, I've got this Execute, and all my stacks got cleansed, I dealt no damage, and the Blissey gets away. So, I would say when you're fighting a Blissey, just keep holding your A button, and you'll be fine. Mamo. I'm actually going to stick Mamo into the enemy favored tier. I was going to stick it in the skill matchup tier, but I have just been wrecked by so many Mamo swines, and I continue to disrespect it, and I think that Mamo's just a lot stronger into what I'm trying to do than I think. I don't know if it's actually just me, or if it just feels very strong. It has enough damage to actually KO me, and sometimes even just take objectives right out from under me. I think either I just need to respect this Pokemon more, or it actually is just a lot stronger into Duraludon than I initially thought. It has a lot of moves that can get rid of your passive, and also just stun you, CC you, throw you into the enemy team, and get you KO'd. So yeah, I would say Mamo is a Pokemon you want to be watching out for on the enemy team. Sylveon... sure. I think that if again, a lot of this, I keep repeating it, but it's so true. Whenever enemy Pokemon ults, it just changes how this matchup chart works out. So I would say if Sylveon is not uniting, you outrange it, you deal enough damage, just KO it, and you should be fine. Greedent. I'm going to put Greedent into the skill matchup tier, I think. I just honestly have not played against enough Greedent this patch, or honestly just in general, to really give you a good idea. I think a really, really good Greedent is going to be in the enemy favored tier, in which case I'll actually leave it there and say that the best, your worst case scenario is that the Greedent is going to be a problem, so assume that the Greedent will be a problem until proven otherwise. So if it seems like, oh, this Greedent is just going to be not an issue, then it's a skill matchup. If the Greedent actually knows how to play the Pokemon, you're going to be probably in trouble, because usually they know how to prioritize their targets and they'll just KO you every time. Decidueye. This is a hard one. I think I'm going to put it into the skill matchup tier, because a Decidueye that's playing really well with Spirit Shackle will just be able to outrange you and KO you from afar. You can dodge a couple of times with Dragon Tail, but once you're out of Dragon Tail, they can hit you. And so you just have to be very careful and just aware of it on the map at all times. It can also outsnipe you sometimes for objectives. So yeah, just keep an eye out for Decidueyes, get a feel for what they're doing and how they're playing, and play around them. I would say that they're a skill matchup. I'm gonna skip D-Knight for a second. Zarina... I'm going to stick into the skill matchup tier. I think that a lot of Zarina's struggle to keep up with Duraludon, even with as much mobility as it has, just because you have that extra CC from Dragon Tail. And it does have sustain, and it does have damage, so I think that it really just depends who had the better micro in the moment, the Zarina or yourself, and it'll come down to that. Aegislash, I would say, is very enemy favored. Aegislash has more than enough mobility and damage to one-shot you, especially when it crits. Those boosted attacks just hurt hurt so much on that Pokemon, and a lot of times you just can't run away from it. It has more than enough movement speed, it has more than enough damage to just KO you every time. Azarina, you can usually get away from, and Aegislash you don't. Tree. I would put into Duraludon Favored. I think it can proc your passive easily, it does a little bit of damage, but I don't think it does enough damage to really warrant the "this is a threat" label. Hoopa. Duraludon Favored. Hoopa has completely fallen off the face of the earth in terms of meta, just like a lot of the Pokemon on this list, and it doesn't really do enough damage, it doesn't have enough CC, it doesn't do enough to actually stop you from doing what you want to do, it can't out-secure you. So yeah, Duraludon Favorite tier, for sure. And I'm sure no one is surprised to see Duraludon in the skill matchup tier. When you're playing against an enemy Duraludon, check and see if they have full heal. If they don't have full heal, shame them. Shame them publicly. Just kidding. Don't do that. I think full heal is a must play on this Pokemon, and I really don't understand seeing other Duraludon players on other items. Like, obviously, play what you want. If it's working for you, more power to you. I just really, really like full heal. I think it's so important to get your Unite off. If your Unite gets canceled, that is the difference between winning and losing a game. So if you have full heal and the enemy Duraludon does not, there's a good chance their ult's going to get canceled. Yours won't. I'm going to stick... I really just want to get to this Pokemon. I think it's a... I'm going to throw it in skill matchup, just because when you're in an objective situation, it's going to come down to who can kill the other first. And I think Duraludon usually has a pretty good chance of being able to KO a Dragonite when it comes down to it. So if you can KO the Dragonite, then you can get the objective. If you can't KO the Dragonite and they KO you, they get the objective. So skill matchup makes sense. I don't think Espeon is a problem. I think you just dodge its skill shot and then you kill it. Like, that's kind of the long and short of it. Delphox. I'm going to say skill matchup. I think that a Delphox who is just absolutely cracked, like, if you know Datboy Muck is absolutely 100% going to destroy me every single time if I'm playing Duraludon and they're playing Delphox, but a lot of Delphoxes are not at that level. So in general, I think you'll be able to deal with Delphox is fine. Just don't stand in their Unite and you'll be fine. Glaceon goes into the pure evil tier. Every time I see it on the enemy team, I cry a little bit inside, unless it plays Icicle Spear, in which case it goes into Duraludon Favored, but if they're playing Icy Wind, it just takes out your entire health bar in one move cycle, and there's nothing that you can do about it, and it sucks. It's no fun to play against, and I hope that Pokemon gets a nerf sometime soon, because there's just not a great way to deal with it as Duraludon, or as a lot of Pokemon, to be frank. Buzzwole, I don't know why I'm skipping Azu. Azu, I'm going to stick into the skill matchup tier. I think if the Azu knows they can kill you, they will go in. If the Azu knows that they can't, they will not. If they don't know their ranges, then you'll get a fight and you'll probably win. Buzzwole, I'm going to stick into Duraludon Favored. I don't think Buzzwole has enough mobility to really get on top of you as long as you're being good about your positioning, being aware of the map. Buzzwole is not an issue. Same goes with Tyranitar. Tyranitar can kind of chase you down, but in general you can still end up outrunning it. And because you're ranged and it's not, it has a hard time catching up to you. Like, even if it runs X speed, I could see it catching up to you. But the more resources that it has to use to actually kill you, the more I'd say it's Duraludon Favored, because that means the Pokemon inherently does not mean that... the Pokemon inherently just does not match up to Duraludon well if they have to use even more resources to be able to get you. I hate this Pokemon. Please nerf this thing. Mew, I mean, like, I love Mew and I hate Mew. Mew is a very, very unique and interesting and fun Pokemon to play, but it has every single tool available to it, and it does so much damage at level 3. If you go into lane as Duraludon and try to play against Mew, you don't win. Like, that's basically just a losing game. You can't out-secure any farm from it unless you're very lucky, or just very, 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 very strong. Solar Beam is just way overtuned, and they need to tune that thing down. And the Pokemon also scales into the late game too, just like you, so it gets to be strong early, it gets to be strong in the middle, and it gets to be strong late. It gets its Unite before you. Just, Mew has everything going for it, and it needs a nerf. That's all I gotta say about that one. Skipping Scyther for now. Dodrio is definitely in the enemy favorite tier. Dodrio can just run right up to you and one-shot you. and there's not much you can do about it. It's got more than enough movement speed, it's got so much damage from Tri-Attack, and it heals a bunch too, so a lot of times it just flat out KOs you and there's nothing you can do about it. You just say, oh, well, that's Dodrio. So if there's a Dodrio on the enemy team, just stay near your team, be very aware if Dodrio is on the map. You can sometimes fight it on your point, and other times it will just flat out kill you on your point. Scyther I'm going to stick in the Duraludon favored matchup and say it has dashes, but it doesn't overall have enough to really warrant a problem unless you're taking a long fight with it. And if you're taking a long fight with it, that means you're probably too close and you're out of position, essentially, and you should run to your team for help. But I would say as long as you're positioning well, then I would stick Caesar there. And I'm actually not even going to put Scyther on the list because I have played against 0 Scyther players. I have no idea what the matchup is like. My intuition says that it would probably be Duraludon favored, but I have nothing to go off of. I haven't gotten to play against this Pokemon at all, and yeah. So I hope that y'all enjoyed this little matchup making tier list thing. And if you did, like I said, leave a comment and let me know what I got right. Let me know what I got wrong. Subscribe for more Duraludon content. I've really been enjoying making this YouTube stuff. And yeah, I will see y'all in the next one. Peace, folks.